Woodworking 101, the cutting board, the fallback gift of the century. But doesn't everyone have one by now? Let's talk about the cutting board's cousin, this lame generic thing that everyone has sitting next to their beautiful cutting board, the knife block, or whatever the hell this is. Alright, so I got some knives. Well, I got some knives for somebody as a gift, and they are sick. Too sick for a regular cutting block. It's come to my attention that I overcomplicate the shit out of everything, and you guys might want something that's a little more approachable that you could do at home. So, I'm making a thing for these things. Alright, so this is just a set of laminated Japanese kitchen knives, which just means the really hard part of the steel is the edge where it counts, but the rest of it is not, so it's easier to sharpen. Through woodworking, I've become a very big fan of the way Japanese make their cutting edges. Alright, to start, as you might guess, we've got some chunks of wood here, and I've crafted one very simple jig. All this does is it holds the wood in place so that I can take it and cut it into two wedges. Let's start there, and we'll get into the rest as we go. Alright, I know this sounds like a pretty simple project for my channel, but just hold your horses. This is going to be pretty tight, and you can thank me around Christmas time. Alright, that makes quick, easy work at the taper. It does leave sort of a rough edge, and you could take that down to the hay-in plane. What I'm going to do is just take it over to the joiner real quick, and super light pass, just clean up that face. And because I know somebody's going to yell at me in the comment section, I'd like to point out that first of all, it's not your fingers, not your problem. B, you shouldn't put short stuff over the joiner. In order to space these wedges apart from one another, I'm going to be ripping down some thin bits of cherry. It's probably best to be doing this on the bandsaw. So, as my father always told me, do as I say, not as I do. These strips will form the void that the knives slip into in this cutting block. In order to attach these strips to the wedges that we made earlier, I'm using a 23 gauge pin nailer. This will come back to bite me, and I'm really only doing this because I'm in a time crunch and I need them to hold stuff in place while the glue dries. My advice would be to exercise more patience than I've shown here. There's just something about liquid hide glue in a condiments bottle that makes me hungry. Working out in the shop all day, there's almost nothing I'd rather do less than figure out what to cook and how to cook it. This week's sponsor, I'm really excited to share with you. It's HelloFresh. Honestly, my wife and I have been using this service for about 3 years, and I could not recommend it more. This week, they sent over the hoisin glazed pork tenderloin. And while I prep that, let me give you a few reasons why we love HelloFresh. We no longer buy a bunch of produce and throw it away at the end of the week after it's gone bad, and it's taken away all the stress of figuring out what's for dinner at the end of the day. It includes everything you need to make a meal, along with the instructions on how to make it. The ingredients for over 30 meals are always fresh and pre-portioned with an easy to follow recipe. All you have to do is prep the produce and cook the meal. Go to HelloFresh.com and use Sawyer Designs, plural, 65 for 65% off plus free shipping. And pro tip, pair this with an air fryer for an extra helping of easy at the end of the day. We usually buy the flatbread for a simple lunch on the weekends, and the desserts are a great add too. That's Sawyer Designs with an S, 65 at the link in the description for 65% off and free shipping. Thanks for sponsoring this video, HelloFresh. Now back to the build. Instead of pin nails while the hide glue dries, CA glue makes for a great temporary clamp. Somebody commented on the solid top Sawyer build that it was great, but they didn't learn anything that would make them a better woodworker, so don't mind me while I drizzle some basics on this video. Now that all the strips are attached to the wedges, we can go ahead and get those flush cut. I intentionally left these overhangs because there's a certain smoothness you get when you flush cut versus just try to eyeball and line everything up. This lets the strip location be a little sloppier, and by that I mean speedier. I'm always trying to look for faster ways to do non-critical pieces. Now, in order for this to look right, I cut a very slight angle on the ends of the wedges, which will look nice once you get everything stacked together. Once again, little hide glue in a Ramon Valdez glue bottle. If you guys don't follow him on YouTube, that dude is ridiculously smart. I like the way his brain works. You should check him out. I'll put a link to his channel down in the description. So by rubbing the pieces together, you get sort of an initial tack, and I found that to be especially useful on pieces that are at an angle, because if you try to put clamps on this, it's just going to splooge everything in the middle out. So I'm using a little bit of tape here as a makeshift clamp. And here's where I messed up. I just got this drum sander not too long ago, and while I like it, it definitely has some quirks that I'm not used to. And I took a big gouge out of one side of one of these, so I had to make another. And in chasing that gouge, I found the pin nails. That's right, I'll keep this one. Go to school on the first one, right? Using a modeler's rasp from a Ryu, I think that's how you say it, as well as a block plane. I'm just touching up these edges, and then I'll go ahead and finish sand. And Fuji sent out their new touch-up gun, which I think this project is a perfect application for it. I really liked it. Ergonomically, probably not great to spray a whole big thing, but for small projects and little touch-ups, it is a touch-up gun after all. I think it worked great. To put up with the rigors of the kitchen, I am spraying a 2K water-based urethane. All right, let's see how this thing turned out. Pro tip, measure the hole width of the blade along the length of the blade, because you may get to this point and one doesn't fit. Not a huge deal, but could have been avoided. I did the quick ream job, and this one was good to go. See, shiny this way, shiny that way. What's it look like in a kitchen? Oh yeah, I should have mentioned earlier that the big hole's for scissors, and I threw away that rod thingy because besides feeling like I look like a badass teppanyaki chef, I don't think that thing does anything. And before you head over to HelloFresh to save 65% off your dinner with free shipping, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. Catch you in the next one. Peace.